everyone, and welcome to the Bleeding Metal podcast. My name is Susanna, my pronouns are she, her, and today we are going to discuss symphonic, post apocalyptic, reindeer grinding, Christ abusing, extreme war, pagan, Finno-Scadian metal, which of course means that we are going to discuss the Heavy Trip and the Heavy Trip sequel, Heavier Trip. And to discuss those two very funny movies with me is my friend.
Pia, my pronouns are also she, her, and I'm impressed that you were able to read that out without laughing.
They say that in the movie like a few times. How do they do it?
Must have been the hardest part. They
Yeah.
might have tried it so many times.
And he has to say it with a very straight face because he has to be like, I take this very seriously.
Yes.
So yeah, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yes, Heavy Trip and the sequel that came out past year and is now on the streaming platforms. I just found out that DVD will be out in late January, early February. So when this episode is out, it might be there already. And yeah, just a couple of days ago, I saw that it is on streaming platforms, at least in Germany. But you haven't seen Heavier Trip, right?
No, I was only able to watch the first movie, Heavy Trip. It was released in 2008.
18.
Yeah, 2018. I think I saw it on YouTube, like when you have the option to pay to rent a movie on YouTube. It wasn't any streaming platform that I know of. And till this day, I don't think it is. It's still kind of a cult underground movie over here. And I'm still waiting for the sequel. Let's see. I knew that they were having like special screenings in Germany, also in the US, but like you said, it's available in other platforms now, right?
Yeah, usually movies like this are not in the cinemas regularly. They have special dates, and you can only watch them on several days in several cities. It's like when a band goes on tour, more or less, that they say on that day you can watch it in this movie theater and so on. Sometimes they also bring the cast or the people who filmed or whatever, so that you have not only the movie but also maybe a discussion or explanation, or you can take photos with them or whatever. It was in cinemas for a couple of weeks. That was not the case with this.
I think maybe even the story of the movies kind of mirror the story of the band, because that's the feeling I got when I watched the first movie, that it was about a small band trying to have their big break. And it was a small movie from Finland, which is not known globally for their cinema. And it was a very small movie. At least here, it felt like it was a smallish movie.
But it cost 3 million euros. And it is
The first one?
Yes, and it is the most expensive Finnish comedy.
Oh, wow.
Since that date.
Okay, so it's made to feel like a small movie, but it wasn't.
Yes.
Yeah, it felt like it kind of mirrored the story of the band. That at first they're a small band trying to make it big, then they kind of have a break, and then they have this like second chance in the second movie. I was even worried that maybe the sequel would ruin the small band kind of vibe, but I don't know if that's the case. Hopefully.
I will tell you. So this episode is full of spoilers. But first of all, let's talk about Heavy Trip.
Yeah, the first movie is about this small band in a small town in Finland. They hit kind of a creative block at some point. They have this very funny scene where one of the guys is trying to create a riff, and the nerdy guy in the band keeps saying, oh, this is this music that was already released by this band in this year. And so nothing new comes. They just keep riffing on the same stuff that they already like. And then they hit luck in a kind of dark humor way, because one of the guys work at a butcher place and they have to grind animal meat, and a carcass, some bones get stuck in a machine, and it makes kind of a cool noise, and he records it and calls the other guys and goes like, that's our new sound. I guess that's where the reindeer grinding in the label that they use for themselves comes from. And then they create this one song that is really cool, and they get invited by a person, I think from Norway, to play in a festival, and it's their big break. But the story really happens when, I think it's just the next day or some days later, they found out that it was kind of a mistake. They're not really invited. They invited the wrong people.
The guy came because he wanted to buy reindeer blood for the festival. And then they got his number and they said, well, can you listen to our demo tape? And if you like it, then we can come and play at your place. And he says, yeah, I might have a slot, but I have to listen to that first. And then he says, no, I don't have a slot for you anymore. So they have a couple of days where they think they might have a chance, but it's nothing confirmed.
Yeah. But then they decide to just, you know what, let's drive to Norway
Mm-hmm.
and let's just crash the festival and make this happen one way or another. And that's the plot of the movie. It's just them traveling. It's a road trip and a buddy movie where they try to have this band that is nothing there, nobody knows them. So they're figuring out everything, like even promo photos and what they're gonna look on stage and everything. They're doing all of those things on the road to Norway to make the festival happen. Yeah, they're just gonna crash the festival and play there, and whatever happens happens.
Mm.
And I think the movie is one of the silliest I've ever watched, and I do have a taste for very very silly movies. I think I laughed throughout the whole thing. I was laughing at very silly stupid jokes the whole time. But the ending is actually kind of sweet. I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting to have like a warm feeling in my heart at the end of the movie. So it's a cool movie. They do play. They do end up just invading the stage and playing by force, and they are arrested at the end of the movie. But of course, you get to see them kind of develop as characters during the trip and develop their friendship and develop themselves as a band. Yeah, at the end of the first movie, they are arrested, and that's where the second movie picks up. They are in jail and they are escaping prison to play at Wacken,
Yes.
right?
Yes. They are in jail, I think, 5 years after the first movie happens. They find out that the father of the guy who's working at this reindeer butcher place, he has to pay a lot of money and he got a heart attack, and they want to help him because the rehearsal room was in the cellar of the butchery of the farm also. And they spend a lot of time out there. It felt like the family for all of the band members, and they are like, yes, we need to do something, we need to help them, we need to get the money together. But then M.E. Fisto came. He is a music producer, and if you read it out, it's Mephisto. And he offered them to play in Wacken, and he said, but I can't give you much money, I can only pay you 50,000 euros. And the reindeer family, they need 30,000. So they are like, oh, if we can do that, we can help the family with the butchery, with the place. And so they make a plan to get out of prison. And I have to admit, I found that the second movie was funnier than the first one. So
Wow, cool.
I liked some of the jokes in the first movie. Maybe I grew out of this or something like that. But there were so many things that I thought, okay, that wasn't necessary, or I don't think that it's funny, but they wanted to make jokes about that. For example, the main character, many people call him gay because of his hair.
Yeah. On the first movie, anyway.
Yes, it's not the case anymore in the second movie. And it also wouldn't pass the so-called Bechtel test.
No, because at least in the first movie, there is
One female character.
two, I think. And the first one, because you have the girlfriend and then you
Yeah.
have the police officer in Norway, which is like, doesn't even make any sense, her character. But of course, they don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
It wouldn't pass the test at all.
And also they have this weird love story that is not really a love story. So I would have liked it if the female character in the first movie would have just stayed friends with the main character, but they had to make a kind of love story out of it.
Okay.
Just because. And I was like, no, why? I don't want to have a love story in a movie just to have it.
Yeah.
But there were other jokes, like one of the guys who made the music or who participated in, I don't know what, in the movie is from the band Eternities of Sorrow. And the band needs a band name. So they find this name Impaled Rectum later, but they are guessing names. And then they also have this, well, we could take Eternities of Sorrow. And all of them are like, nah, that's a bad name. We don't want it. So I like that. But there are so many cliche things. I don't know. I like movies that surprise me, and there wasn't really a surprise, but I can understand that it's a feel-good movie for metalheads, and that it's also funny when you don't expect too much. And the second one was a bit better, also because they spent more time on the characters. You just said there was this nerdy guy who knew every riff, and when the band escapes prison, they escape because there is something that is like TripAdvisor, but for prisons. It's Prison Advisor. And they rate prisons. And when people go to prison, they can maybe choose, I don't know. But the people in the prison mistake them for the people from Prison Advisor, and that's
Okay.
how they can escape.
Where are they in jail then? Is it in Norway?
In Norway.
Okay, I guess it's a joke on how amazing Norway prison system is that you would even have a prison advisor because it's so nice out there. Okay.
They made that really cool because they also said, we have the best fish buffet here for the prisoners and everything. So that's quite cool. And the nerdy guy, he is also responsible for the books for the library. And that's why he has a special card. And with that one, he can use a boat that's outside of the prison because the prison itself is in a lake.
Okay.
So they need that one to escape. And then they escape and they want to go to another festival, not Wacken, but they should play another place before that. And they meet another band while going there, and they go with them in their tour bus. And during this trip, or when they play on that festival, there is BABYMETAL who also play on that festival. So
Okay.
the nerdy guy sees the BABYMETAL gig and he's like, no way, what is this? This is not metal. But somehow he is stuck there. And meanwhile, BABYMETAL is playing. The vocalist of the band that they go with, he cannot play the gig anymore, and impaired rectum vocalist, he steps in and he does a really good job. And that's why another guy of the band comes and says, well, you need to come, you need to see him rocking the stage. And he's like, I can't because he is kind of stuck at this BABYMETAL gig, and in the end he also whoops with his foot. So he kind of likes it. And later on he meets them again on the road, and they invite him to go with them in their tour bus, and he's like, no, I don't want to be seen with you and everything. You see that he feels uncomfortable, and they listen to really heavy underground black metal music, and he asks, what are you listening to? And they say, oh, we have this demo from that and that band, and it's the only copy, and it's nowhere available, and it's so cool, and we're listening to this, and you can come with us and listen to it. But he still refuses, but in the end he is friends with BABYMETAL, and that's very cute.
Nice. I thought they were gonna make like a small cameo because in the trailer you see so many other artists making like small cameos but I didn't know they were gonna have the important part in the movie.
In the end, they even rent the instruments, so they have this BABYMETAL drum kit on their small stage. So I will come to that later. Nice. And what I also liked in the second part is that the band that they team up with to go to Wacken, they have a female guitar player. Mm-hmm. They don't talk about that at all. So a female guitar player, and that's it. And she is there, a normal character in the movies. So
as it should be.
As it should be. Yeah, and throughout the movie, it turns out that the Mephisto, that the record label guy, is only interested in the vocalist of the band, and he writes everything, the promo pics and stuff around him. And he also kind of starts to like that, and the band members, one after another, leave him. They also record a new song in the studio that sounds really cool when they are there, and even the nerdy guy says, well, that's a very great song. But when they step out of the studio, Mephisto changes a lot on the song so that it sounds totally different, with drum computer and many electronical parts in there, so that they don't like it anymore. But the main character, he wants to play in Wacken for any cost. So he says he is okay with that. Later on, Mephisto even offers him to give him the money when he does not play in Wacken, so he can leave and have the money to save the family. And he says, no, I want to play Wacken. So he acts not in the interest of the other guys, but they find that out later. So the band kind of splits up, and I think his name is Turo. In the end, he is on stage with session musicians, and he looks like a member of Death Star, so completely different from...
Oh no.
During the first song that they play, he escapes from the stage and tries to get the band together, collect money with beer cans, and he tries to make a death metal karaoke or a cappella and tries to get the money with that, but it all doesn't work. So in the end, they are in prison again,
Oh no.
and they are allowed to play music in the prison. You see them in the end in the cellar of the prison with a big crowd, and the prison is very happy to have them and says, yes, they're allowed to play here because people do crimes to come here to see them play.
Nice.
So that's basically the end.
Very metal.
Yes.
I love it because the first movie is really about just this small band trying to have a chance. They are not even trying to be famous or anything. I think on the first movie, they are really on the verge of breaking up and like, we are too old for this shit. This is a teenage dream. And then they have this one glimpse of a chance, then they hold on to it. And when
Hmm.
I heard about the sequel and all the cameos and Baby Metal and Wacken, I thought that they were going to make it, that they were going to ruin the small band trying to
Mm.
make it kind of vibe. But apparently not. Apparently the movie is exactly like that. Like they are
Yes.
dealing with the same problems of how can we make it and be true to ourselves and to our music and still love what we do now that
Mm.
we are kind of big, now that this manager dude is trying to quote unquote help us. So I guess they
Yes.
kept the same vibe. That's cool.
And of course, when the nerdy guy, I think his name is Xytrax, when he
Yeah.
hears that they should play Wacken, he's like, no, that's a commercial place and I don't want to play there. And he only says yes because they need the money.
There's even a discussion about how musicians get paid and what to what extent you do what the market wants you to
Yes.
do, the price to pay for fame. That's really cool. I
Mm.
thought that even the kind of the stereotypes that you mentioned about the first movie that you didn't like so much, maybe it goes well with the second movie because the first is very basic really. Even the characters are very like stereotypical metalheads. Like you will
Yes.
have the normal guy, like Turo is the normal sweet guy, but then you will have the super nerdy character, the kind of stupid character.
Yes. Yes. Now that you say that, in the second movie, Turo gets shot by the
Oh no.
policewoman, and his guitar player, he jumps in front of him, and he got shot in the head, and then he stands up again. Everybody thinks he's dead, and he says, no important organs were destroyed. And
Nice. So yeah, so you have the sweet kind of relatable guy, but you have the stupid one, you have the super nerdy guy, and then you have the drummer is literally an insane person. The first movie, he's rescued from a mental asylum. So
I really
crazy.
liked his shirt because he is a person of color, and he wore a shirt, I put the black into black metal.
Nice. I think in the first movie, half the movie he's wearing like a hospital gown.
Yes, with no underwear.
Underwear. So yeah, so the characters are very personification of very stupid stereotype. I think even the format of the movie, like they make it a road movie, kind of making
Yeah.
fun of the format of a road movie. Because I think I was reading years later that even the idea that you have to go from Finland to Norway and then you choose to drive is stupid because it's like the most difficult
There. Mm.
possible. Like it's, even the idea of let's make this a road movie. Yeah, we're going from Finland to Norway. Like it should be like a boat movie
Yes.
or a plane movie, but then be
But honestly, it wasn't, because more than half of the movie was that the band had to find itself, and then only a short part on the road.
yeah, the road part is just kind of like an excuse of let's get those characters in a difficult situation so
Yeah.
that we have time with the characters. Even
Yes.
the whole part where they are in the border of Finland and Norway, and you have this policewoman who loves guns for some reason. And I do not think that the border between Finland and Norway is heavy guarded in any way.
I don't think so too.
But there is this one policewoman who for some reason loves guns and dislikes them and kind of chases them, and does it's a whole
Mm.
thing. So the whole, I think even the format is supposed to be stupid. It's supposed to be like that doesn't even make any sense, or of course it's not happening in the border of Finland and Norway. So I think it's cool that they took this very stupid movie that, yes, is just filled with the stereotypes. Maybe the idea is to make fun of the
Mm.
stereotype. And I like the idea of the nerdy character gets conflicted with liking baby metal, and that the fact that they were in jail for so many years and now they're back in the real world, and it's like metal is not that stereotypical thing that it used to be anymore. Now you
Yes.
have baby metal, now you have
Mm.
all sorts of stuff, and now maybe the tough guy persona that he used to portray being the stereotypical metalhead dude is not current anymore, and there are new stuff happening, and he has to just get used to it and learn from it. So that's
Mm.
cool.
The second one really criticized the music industry and also this gatekeeping
Hmm.
thing that's going on in the metal scene, though. That was a really intelligent movie, and the first one was meant to be more stupid, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Honestly, I was so sad that metal is not popular in Finland on the countryside, because in my head, every Finnish person likes metal. Of course, I know that's not the case, but I know it's more popular in Finland than in other countries.
I thought so too. Like the character gets mocked a lot for being a metalhead, and I was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
does this happen in Finland? Come on,
Yeah.
Finland, like me? No way."
I mentioned the love story in the first part, and the female character from that quote unquote love story wasn't even a part in the second one. She wasn't even mentioned, something where I thought,
Oh,
okay, that makes even less sense to have this love
yeah.
story there. But they have a lot of side jokes, like I mentioned the Eternal Tears of Sorrow joke in the first movie. In the second movie, they have a reference to the computer game Brutal Legend with Jack Black, because he has an attack, a very powerful attack that's called, it's Gesichtsschmelze in German. It's kind of face melting, so that you can melt the faces of your enemies with the guitar riff. And in the movie, the vocalist of the band they team up with in the tour bus, he has this power with his voice that he can melt the face of his enemy. And I was laughing at that so hard, because when I was younger, when we were playing that game, I had a friend who I went to party in Hamburg, and he was wearing something with the part on it that he could use as a guitar. And he was super drunk, and he was just randomly standing somewhere and said, Gesichtsschmelze, and then playing air guitar. I had to think about that. So, yes, I like the second movie more. It's not that the first one was boring or anything. It's not even time wasting, but I would rate that maybe 5 of 10, and the second one like 7 or 8 of 10.
Ah, nice. Now I have to watch the second one then, so that I can follow the whole saga. I really like the first one, so yeah, maybe I'm gonna like the second one even better.
I hope so.
It's interesting that because they now have more cameos or famous people participating on the story, I guess it makes sense that the story is more developed on the second. Maybe the first is kind of like the setup to, so you get to know the characters, and then in the second movie they get to do more
Mm.
with this character.
But I honestly have to say, it was also not available for free here on streaming platforms. So
Yeah.
I had to pay €8 to watch both movies. And that was okay. If I would have to pay 20 or something, I would be like, okay.
You paid €8 for both movies?
Yes. And if you have that available for maybe €10 or something, go watch it. Don't spend too much on it. I would recommend. You can have a good evening with the movies, with both of them. You can also watch them in a row, because they are only 90 minutes.
It's a good idea for the weekend to watch them in a row, the
Hmm.
two of them, get your friends together. You're definitely gonna have a good time because it's just a light-hearted, fun movie. You're gonna have some laughs for sure. Maybe you will remember something from your teenage years and stupid stuff that you did with your friends. And how did you like the soundtrack?
I don't really remember that. I don't know. I didn't really pay that much attention. I also wasn't able to listen in high volume because my children were sleeping.
Yeah. I think the first movie they had this playlist on Spotify.
Mhm.
I don't think it's the original soundtrack yet. I think it's the playlist with musicians that were part of the second movie, either
Mhm.
cameo or maybe participating on the soundtrack. The playlist is interesting, but I don't think that they released the soundtrack yet for the second movie.
I know that Lauri Porra from Stratovarius, the bass player, he is the guy behind the soundtrack for the first part.
Yeah. Maybe he's involved in the second one because I was just watching this interview with Mika Lamasari. He's
Mhm.
the guitar player for More Subita, and he was also involved in the first movie. And also Emily Bode, who was the vocalist for More Subita as well. And they were hinting that they were involved in the second movie as
Mm,
well.
cool.
So a bunch of cool Finnish musicians involved in
Yes.
the soundtrack. The band Diablo as well. They were also involved in the first movie's soundtrack. So I'm curious about the soundtrack for the second movie because if it's like the same team of cool Finnish musicians and then a whole bunch of international bigger celebrities involved, then probably pretty cool. I
Yes.
don't know if they got
So
to play together. Like it would be interesting to see Lauri and Mika Lamasari playing with Baby Metal, for example. That would be interesting, but I don't know if
yeah,
that
I don't think so because the movie hasn't been that famous, I guess, but maybe I'm
Yeah.
wrong. Would be a good thing. Yes, so we can definitely recommend if you want a cozy evening with a
Yeah.
light-hearted movie, then you can definitely watch these movies.
And you can
And
tell us your favorite, silliest jokes.
yes, because I don't think that I got them all. So yeah, let us know your favorite joke in the comments on Instagram. We are at Bleeding Metal Pod. Let us know if you watched both movies. If it's available in your country, that would be interesting as well. And yes, thank you for listening. Bye bye.
Bye bye.